Hello everybody, my name is Rod Davies and I'm co-founder and director of Energy Carbon UK. And we make from our factories in Germany a range of low energy, innovative, disruptive technologies that currently we put into grand design £1 million homes, and we think we can bring it to the care sector. Why should everything be thrown at the domestic market when there's a massive requirement out there in the care sector that we can address in terms of energy? Now we're going to be talking about how we're going to save your heating. There's a lot of money wasting at heating your care homes. And we're also going to look at how we can improve the comfort levels in your care home as well. Not just for the residents, but for the staff and for the guests and visitors who are coming to the care home. Because let's face it, it's not the nicest place for people to come and visit. It can be quite off-putting. So we're going to look at that and we're going to try and address it through technology and see what we can do. But before I begin that, I just want to take you on a little bit of a journey, a personal journey now, that I'm hoping will resonate with you around the room. And I'm going to try not to stand in front of my screen here. So this is my dad, Tom, who was born in 1934. He was a bit of a legend, my dad. He was a globe-trotting director for Pan Am back in the 70s and 80s. He would rub shoulders with Shirley Bassey and Raquel Welch and Tony Curtis. He would, welling up, he would later on in life become a photographer for Hello magazine, and he travelled around the world photographing celebrities. So he had a really nice lifestyle, right the way up until the age of about 82. And then in 2018, in the spring of 2018, he had a fall. And at that stage, when he had the fall, he was diagnosed with spinal cancer and he lost the use of everything below his legs. Sorry, oh dear, I've been practicing this and it's been fine. It's when it's out in the open, isn't it? So this is us larking about, trying to cheer him up afterwards. That's what we're like as families, as a family, 4 boys and my dad. And he was in a hospice for a week or two, and then we took him to a care home down near us by the seaside, which is what he loved. It's a Regency style care home, very old one, gas boiler, big chunky radiators on the walls. He used to crash his wheelchair into them as we're navigating through the corridors. When we went to visit him, it was always a bit smelly in there, quite frankly, and some of my brothers and their kids didn't want to visit. They loved him, but they didn't like the smell and they didn't like the atmosphere. It would put them off. Dad used to open all the windows to get the fresh air in, and of course that made it cold and damp in his bedroom. But you closed them and it was really stuffy and hot. So it was a really difficult situation. He passed away Christmas Eve 2018. God bless you, Dad. Let me take you to my mum. So my mum was Dad's model, if you like. She was an it girl in the 70s and 80s. She used to follow Dad around everywhere with us 4 boys in tow. And all the guys used to wolf whistle at her, and we didn't know why. We didn't understand as kids what that meant. She was later on in life, she was an artist, a writer, a sculptress. She used to act. And then 5 years ago, vascular dementia, Alzheimer's. So she's now in a care home. But when we put her into the care home, when we had to take that difficult decision to put her into a care facility, we didn't want to go down the old-fashioned style care home again, because we didn't want the dry air and the smells and all that type of stuff that we struggled with Dad with. So we found a brand new one, operated by a national operator. It had just opened, and we were lured in by the cafe and the hairdressing salon and the velvet plush furniture and the baristas and the staff, obviously. The staff are lovely. 2 years later, this is a visit 2 weeks ago to see her. We see her twice a week. And that's my wife. And the first thing she said when we went in there 2 weeks ago, bear in mind this care home's only 2 years old, was, my God, are the staff nose blind? Within 2 years, this brand new care home was starting to smell again. And again, we're finding that families aren't coming quite so much. On top of that, it's got an air source heat pump. to keep the energy costs down. Brilliant. The radiator's this big on the wall, take up loads of space in a small room. Okay, it's not such a small room, but that's her home now. And in that room, that's a whole wall taken up. It's not good. Now, not only that, this radiator is chucking up, well, you know how convection works, do you? You're not stupid. Cold air comes through, comes up, and it creates this cycle of dust, skin cells, virus, nastiness going through the air. And we try and clean the floors under the bed, and we do this and that, but it's gathering around the room. Now, where's that smell coming from? It's in the corridors when you walk through. We've got no ventilation in there, no mechanical ventilation. All the staff open the windows in all the bedrooms by this much, and you get a ventilation, cross ventilation coming between the rooms, dragging all those skin cells, all that virus, all that smell from the residents' rooms, and distributing it around the building and mixing it all around in a big old melting pot of yuck. That's where we are now. Okay, that's the situation we're in. And as I said at the beginning, we address these sort of things every day in some of our £5 million grand designs homes. They don't have a problem. So I set about drawing up a wish list of things we should look for. Oh no, sorry, I've missed a slide. Hold on. Told you I was disorganised. So the first thing we did was approach the care home operator for my dad's care home. I won't say who it was, but they said to us, well, we've got a care home, 122 bedrooms. It's a big place. They've got a legacy gas boiler, so they've had that gas boiler for ages, and the gas boiler kept failing. Now, every time it failed, they have to get maintenance engineers in. That's cost and panic. Eventually, that gas boiler packed up. And when it packed up, catastrophic failure. They had to, in a panic situation, the remedial team went out, bought the low temperature 2 kilowatt heaters, and went round and installed them into all the residents' rooms. Great. Problem solved. But it brought with it a bunch of other problems. First of all, humidity. That's starting to, because of the variation in electric temperature, instead of having a constant low temperature, we're getting condensation on the windows, which is then starting to trickle onto windowsills. You still get the dust build-up. You get things like resident tampering. So the residents are turning them down. The residents are even pulling them off the walls, and I did hear that they're weeing on them. Go figure. So, this is a whole nother problem. And then top of the list, from the care home's point of view, £190,000 a year to heat the building now. It's a colossal amount of money and a colossal amount of energy when we're supposed to be saving energy. So you're supposed to be making profits and looking after people, but it's a business, let's face it, and we're supposed to be saving the planet, and yet that's going on. On top of that, of course, we've still got the problem with the cross ventilation going on in this home. This is my wish list. So, and I won't do this in any particular order because I always forget it, so I'm just going to freestyle this, but feel free to read it, hopefully it will correlate, and see if this resonates with any of you, and put your hand up if you can think of anything else. So first of all, wouldn't it be nice if the heating system in the building was invisible? So it didn't have any radiators, it didn't cause any obstruction, you could put your favourite piece of furniture against the wall, it wasn't there to be seen. Who needs to see the heating? It's not a display product, is it? Wouldn't it be nice if it's controllable in every bedroom? So every resident's room had its own control function, its own environmental control specifically for that resident that could be centrally controlled and maximised in terms of usage. We can put occupancy sensors, for example. So if they're not in the room while they're at hospital, why heat the room? If they're out for a period of time, why heat the room? If they're in there and they're suddenly struggling, why not ramp it up? Wouldn't it be good if it was super fast? So rather than waiting all day for the room to heat up, it heated up really quickly. Let's get rid of all the dust. Dust is terrible. All those skin cells and things, let's get rid of that. We don't want that. If we can lose that, think of how much easier it is for the residents to breathe. Again, going back to that business about visiting my dad in his room and having to open the windows. It was stale, dry air, and part of that is the relative humidity drops so low that the air is dry and all your nasal passages get clogged up, your throat gets dry, your skin feels itchy. Let's get rid of that. Condensation, gone. That's an easy one. stuffy. That's what I've just said, I think. Let's get a system that's decoupled from the rest of it. Now, a lot of care homes we talk to now are saying, no, we're sticking a gas boiler in, or no, we're sticking an air source heat pump, and they're building a new care home. Yay, great. What happens in 10 years' time? Same problem again. Thing packs up, you've got to go around putting these little things. Let's get rid of that. Let's have it decoupled so every room is separate from the other rooms. So if one room did go down, nothing else is affected. Wouldn't it be great if we could fit these systems into a resident's room with minimum disruption in a day or two? So that as you went through tidying up the rooms when they leave you and you redecorate, you can make it part of that maintenance program. Or you could do it 3 or 4 rooms on a wing, for example, at a time. Even better, no cost to maintain it. Maintenance engineers, waiting for that call back from a maintenance engineer is going to charge you £200 to come out. Let's not have any maintenance on it as well. And then, of course, top of the list, let's try and save some energy. Let's try and save 30% on your electricity costs. So that's the goal. This is how we're going to achieve it. So, this is the energy carbon infrared heating fleece. 600mm wide, 0.4 millimeters thick. It's made from recycled materials, so it's got a really good embodied carbon count to start with. So we're on a bonus already. We install it into the ceilings. Now, by putting it in the ceiling, we cover 100% of the room with even temperature, and the residents can't touch it. It's out of the way. There's no tampering with it. It's gone. You can't see it. Like I said, why do you need to see your heating? It's 36 volts, so it's safe. So there's no chance of anybody electrocuting themselves. I mean, they're not going to touch it up there anyway, but who knows? You never know. They might hang up paper chains with a drawing pin. So it's safe. We can put it in the floor or the walls, but the ceiling's always the preferable version. But from the ceiling, when we turn it on, within 3 minutes, you feel the benefit of the warmth. It's touching the body in the same way the sunshine comes through the window in your car, and you instantly feel warm. So that's the feeling you get in your room. Within 3 minutes' time, the resident feels the benefit. Within 10 minutes, the floor temperature starts to come up, and all the surfaces in the room gradually warm up. Now, what that does is, because all the surfaces, I don't know if you can feel it on your chairs, you feel that metal bit on your chair feels cold to your skin on the back of your hand. With mean radiant temperature is an important measure of thermal comfort. That little feeling of that bit of cold, even though it's warm in here, the fact that feels cold, the fact that a resident might lean on their table and it makes their skin feel cold, is going to make them feel chilly. With this system, it's warming all of that up, so you never get that. That will always feel body temperature. Now, from the ceiling, it's only 30 degrees or so in the ceiling, but it's bringing the room temperature up to 28 degrees if we need to. So we can have it nice and warm in there. Not only that, because of that mean radiant temperature and the way the system works, 21 degrees can be achieved, the feeling of 21 degrees can be achieved at 19 degrees on the dial, or even less, depending on how you feel yourself. So you can turn your dials down straight away anyway and save energy. So you've got a big energy saving of up to 30% straight away because of the way the system feels. Now, the other thing about this is, because we're heating objects in the room and we're not heating the air, we're saving energy there as well. What's the point of warming up air that you're going to chuck out the window anyway? As soon as you open your window, 25 to 40% of the heat you've paid for with your hard-earned money is going straight out the window. Brilliant. We don't want that, do we? So by not heating the air, you're saving that energy, and also, you're saving energy, basically saving 30% and more. It's zero maintenance. There's very little moving parts of this system. It's the fleece that's in the ceiling. There's a little PSU box about yay big that goes high on a wall somewhere that manages it, or we have a centralised one. There's a control system that goes at the nurse's station or outside the room if we want to, that you can run on an app. Because there's no moving parts, it will last you for 50 years in your care home at least, so you'll never need to replace it, and it will never need any maintenance. You've saved money there as well. Because you've got no convection, you've lost the dust. That's gone. You've just got a gentle rise of the air, because that floor and those metal bits will warm the air gradually and slowly. That's about it, really. There's other stuff as well. How do we put it in? Now, we've got two variants of this system. One of them, we simply put a 2mm bed of multi-finished plaster into the ceiling, and then roll this fleece out like wallpaper, trowel it in, it disappears into the plaster, and then you paint over the top. That's one system. The other system is the one I'm going to show you now. If you want to see that first system, it's on my stand, and I can demonstrate that to you. But this one is what I call dry tech. Now, dry tech, what you do here, you see the guy stapling it to the ceiling and connecting it to a box. That's the only thing you need to do. Electrician. One electrician can do somebody's room in a day. And this is how it works. So stage one, this is a room we've done. Stage one, in this one, what we've done is put some soundproofing and insulation in first. It's a 5mm, stuff you can get from B&Q. Cheap pack of foam, basically, that you staple to the ceiling to give you a bit of insulation and a little place to put the cabling, because you have to put cabling in, so like speaker cable. Then we staple the mats to the ceiling. Bear in mind we're covering 60% of the ceiling area. We then run the cables back to the PSU, as I said, high on the wall, and connect it up. And then we overboard it with 9mm dry lining. Once it's overboarded with the dry lining, you just tape it up and decorate it, and it's in. So you can get your heating replaced. Okay, it's not as quick as putting an electric panel on the wall, but it's there for good once it's in the ceiling. And this is what it looks like when it's turned on. So it all lights up, and I'll show you a little video. This is a walk around of a home that's had it fitted. Now, because we're zone controlling the care home, or the future magnificent grand design home, we can take the energy cost beyond the 30% saving, and we can start to save more like 50 or 60%, because what you're doing is around the home, you're shutting down the areas that aren't needed until they're needed. So, for example, if you have got that fancy hairdressing salon or the cafe or the areas that I mentioned before in the new care homes, you can zone control them, and they'll only come on when they're needed. So you're saving the energy there as well. So we're at 27, 28 degrees in the ceiling, 23 degrees generally in the air around the building. Now, what about ventilation? Normally speaking, as I said, you open the windows, all goes all over the place, no control, cross drafts, damp coming in, bugs coming in, all the other grot from outside coming in. So what you really want to do is have some sort of mechanical ventilation system. Mechanical ventilation system will give you fresh air, but it's also losing that 25 to 40%. So first thing I want to do is make sure each room had ventilation with heat recovery in it. When I say heat recovery, when it sucks out that hot air out of the room, it saves it up, and when it brings the fresh air back in, it warms it up, warms the fresh air from the saved hot air, if that makes sense. So it comes back into the room warm. So we want that. Each room, again, was decoupled. So you didn't have a big central area in a plant room with lots of vents all around the place that you have to clean up and drop your ceiling height and all this stuff. Every one will be individually fitted into each room. The system was silent, or more or less silent, so you didn't know it was running. And it just ticks away all day, all night. Nobody knows it's going. But it had sensors in there to detect if the humidity levels were getting too high, or the CO2 levels, or the VOC levels. So as soon as that smelly change happens, or as soon as it's getting too humid, or any of those other factors, it would just gradually ramp up its purge, and it would take those issues away. Just in that residence room. There's not much point affecting Mr. Jones in the room next door if Mrs. Smith in room 2 has got the problem. It's decoupled. No need to reduce that ceiling height I mentioned. Let's have simple maintenance, so we don't want specialist engineers having to come out. We want to save you that cost. Let's make it energy efficient as well. Let's get that wattage down. There's not much point saving you money if this system's going to cost a lot in electricity, is there? And we want high quality filters. So if that air is coming back into the room, it's filtering it from all the bugs and pollen and dust and CO2 from outside. And this is how we do it. This is what we put into people's homes now. It's a dual unit, it's called Air Unit Gemini. And all we do, in fact, it's just, well, this is the latest one. You see they've got a circular shape on these. We core drill into an outside wall with 2 holes. We put a sheath in there, like a sheath. Well, you'll see this in the video in a minute, but it goes in there. And then what happens is the hot stale air comes in here. It warms up this accumulator, so heats it up there. That's made of ceramic, pushes it to the outside. And while that's happening, on the bottom one, it brings in the cold air and then warms it up on the accumulator and pushes it back out into the room. And it's doing that the whole time, vice versa, like that the whole time. Okay. We've got minimum ventilation rates being met, so we're well above the 10 litres per second that's required for a care home setting. The sound levels are, I can't see where they're on. They're 5.7 decibels. I mean, you can't even hear that when it's running. In fact, when I go around to see these things, I have to put my ear right up against it because I think it's packed up. You don't know it's running. It goes up to 37.6 when it's purging, but that's just the same as a computer fan, really. Oops, hang on. Oh, I won't bother with that. There's a little video showing it being installed. Gives me a chance to have a glass of water.
Today we're going to be trying out this air unit that's going to go onto the side of my cabin here. This is a single room heat recovery system. We have 2 of these side by side. One's an intake, one's an extract. We'll just see how it goes. So this is the equipment we've got. We've got 2 of these. One of these is an extract and one of them's an intake. This is the sheathing that we'll be putting through the wall.
In a timber frame building, so of course they've had to use a saw. And I couldn't really speed it up anymore because you'd lose what he was doing. But as I said, in a traditional setting, you've got bricks. You just core drill as if you're putting a Ventax or extract fan in there. This whole process, from start to finish, takes 1 hour and 27 minutes to fit. You can take your electricity from a lighting ring. It only needs 12 volts. This thing runs at 0.8 watts, so it's not even 1 watt to run it. So you're running this thing continuously, 24/7, 365 days of the year, and you'll see in a minute there's a cover that goes on the top. Now to maintain it, this is something that can be done, you have to add it to the job description, but to the maintenance team, or maybe even the cleaners. It's just simply 1 screw, take it out, flip the cover up, and you pinch out a little filter. You either throw that in the bin or wash it. It's recyclable. Or you put another one in. They're about £1 a time, and you change those every sort of 3 months. So it's a really easy maintenance. That's a little controller. So we'd locate that outside of the residence room, again up high out of reach or in a cupboard. But you only set it once and it's set for good. But if, of course, you've had an issue in the room, as happens, I'm not going to go into details, but you know what I'm talking about, and you have to go in there and sort that out, you can go out to that controller and just quick purge the room and it'll go and suck everything out, which gets rid of the smell. So what that's going to do is stop that cross-contamination of smells through the room. Does that make sense? So you've got a low energy ventilation system, low energy heating system that you can retrofit into your properties. I think that's it. I don't know how I'm doing for time. I've got 10 minutes yet. Has anybody got any questions? Yeah, that's a good question, actually. The heating system obviously doesn't, but with the ventilation system, you can purge. Now, it's difficult to say what the lowest temperature you can achieve, but you can use it to bring the air temperature down, because that little ceramic plate in there that saves heat, it also saves cold. So if you're getting your temperature down during the night in the rooms, and you're purging during the night, and it cools that ceramic down, and then in the day as it heats up, you're then bringing the cold air, the warm air in, it will cool it down. It's not going to be a massive drop in temperature, but you can take it down 1 degree or 2. Nothing major. It's not air conditioning. Actually, I have to say though, we are just looking at adding a DX coil to this. So the DX coil would give you air conditioning in there as well, but that won't be till next year sometime. Any other questions? Come on, was it that easy? Can't hear you, lovey. The installation cost. Well, it's the cost of your electrician and somebody to dry line it. Now, when I say your electrician, it can be your in-house maintenance guy can do it, because you're only stapling it to the ceiling. This is the heat, only stapling it. The wiring is, you know, you could do that, I could do that. You don't need to be a qualified electrician. And then you plug the unit in. As long as you've got a 13 amp socket, you plug it in. So I mean, the cost is just your maintenance guy for a day to do it. Maybe 2 guys to give him a hand with the plasterboard. The cost for putting the ventilation system in, like I said, it's an hour and a half's work, an hour and 27 minutes work. So again, that would be your maintenance guy to do that. He would have to have a bit of training doing it, but we'd come up and show him how to do it. We'd do the first couple with him, and then after that, he could then do it room by room as was needed. The overall system. The cost of the system, if you took a 20 square metre room, which is probably a little bit on the large size for a residence room, let's say a 20 square metres room, we could do that for about 700 watts of electricity. So rather than 2 kilowatts that you'd normally put in, 700 watts. And that would probably cost you about, and I'm guessing now, because I'd have to work it out, about £1,100 for the heating and about £300 or £400 for the ventilation. So about, let's say £1,500, £1,600 plus fitting it, you could have the problem solved in that room. And then every room would be environmentally controlled, wouldn't it? Does that make sense? Now, I've got a really embarrassingly small exhibition stand, H92 over there. I shall be over there for the rest of the day loitering around trying to look busy. Feel free to come over. I've got some of the kit on display there. I can talk you through more if you want to. And other than that, that's great. Thank you very much. Sorry for welling up. But thank you, guys.